retired USCIS immigration officer. I worked in fraud detection and national security for a big portion of my time doing investigations in national security and also in different types of fraudulent benefits. One of them was marriage fraud. And I've been trying to interview people who have gone through it so that as U.S. citizens, legislators can understand what these guys have been through. So again, Richard Lee, and with me is Rachid. Rachid, would you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, my name is Rachid Ahmad. I'm from Kentucky. I live here since 2015, or maybe a little bit before. I lived in Chicago, and I was born in Morocco, where I spent pretty much 20 years there. So maybe half of my life in Morocco and half of my life here in the US.
Wonderful. I met you through our Facebook page called Victims of Immigration Fraud. I did want to give them a little plug and say, hey, this is where a lot of people come to tell their stories and what's wrong, but I think it's good to have a video place too. So can you just tell me a little bit about how you came to this? What did you experience through the immigration process that caused you to run into immigration fraud and to have a problem?
Once I discovered my marriage was not entered in good faith, that my ex purported or married me only to gain access to the US, then I had to make little searches, and I found a group in Facebook, and that's how I was part of it.
So you talk about your spouse now. Where's your spouse from?
She was from VAWA, which is a village in Morocco, close to Agadir.
And when did you guys meet?
The first time we met was briefly, I would say, April 2020.
Okay. So you met in April of 2020, and then you guys kind of started a relationship at some point in time. Was it like an internet relationship for the most part?
The first time I met her through mutual friends. I was not expecting to see her there. I learned about this later on, that she was aware that there are going to be U.S. citizens coming to visit the mutual friends, and she was there at that time. So that's how I met her the first time.
And did you guys? When did you start dating? I guess. Did you date her?
At that time, I was in Morocco for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, and I requested her phone number, and we started talking on the phone.
Okay.
Maybe 30 minutes to an hour.
It is culturally, is that kind of you really don't date there, right? You got to have your parents' permission, or is there some I don't know how it works. I just want to make sure that the audience.
You do date. A lot of people have misconception about maybe Middle East or Morocco, but you do date. But you cannot go sleep with a person. It's not our ritual.
Yes.
You can go to public places, coffee shops, restaurants. You can share with them meals.
Yeah, but there's still some restrictions and behavior. You want to keep it up on the top level, right? There's a
right. I mean, you cannot do little what married people do. So you keep it.
Yeah. But I understand that there's a culture there, and there's a formality, as in most places in the world, and you stuck with that, right? You try to stay with some decency and some cultural
that's right.
respect.
Right. Things right now are a little bit different than what they look like before. Yeah. I mean, you see the LGBT in Morocco. Yeah. You see all kinds that you could see in New York here in open society. So it's not as strict as, I don't want to call other countries, but it is open culture.
And that's a wonderful thing, right? So you met her, you guys kind of got to know each other, you talked online or you talked over the phone, right? So how often did you see each other after that? Like a courtship or something like that?
That was the first time I saw her, and then the second time was on September of that year, 2020.
2020, okay. And who discussed getting married? Who was the first one to kind of approach the idea of getting married?
It was my request or my initiative.
Yeah.
I didn't ask, hey, do you want to marry me? The first thing I did show her my intentions. Hey, let's talk, and if this leads to us agreeing, then most likely you're going to be my wife. So I didn't propose directly, but in indirect way. And she kind of felt the same thing. So I suggested if we could just start talking and lay the grounds to see if we're agreeing to each other.
So you now again, what year was this? 2020?
It was from April 2020, right?
April 2020.
Yeah.
And then when did you guys decide to get married? April 2020.
I decided, I believe in June, I proposed to her. I'm sorry. When we start talking from April onwards, she was represented to me. She was eager to see me. She could not wait. And I said, you know what? Let's apply for the K1 visa. That's how the conversation started.
Yeah, the fiance visa.
The fiance visa. She had no problem with it. She was very excited. She asked me, what do you need for you to apply for this K1 visa? I told her, I'm going to need your personal information, parent information, copy of IDs. And that same day, I received those documents. And what happened next is interesting because I went to the website of USCIS and I was trying to proceed with this K1 visa. And one of the requirements was you have to marry within 90 days and you're probably going to go through an immigration interview.
Okay.
So I called her maybe later on or next morning, next day. I told her this is one of the things we're going to be going through. And once she heard the immigration interview, things changed. So she started, maybe a few more hours later, she called me. She said, I don't think it's a good idea to proceed with this K1 visa, this fiance visa. She said, I think it's better if we can do the marriage instead, the I-130 form. And I said, okay, as you wish. So I told her, so what do we need? What do I have to do now? She said, you have to come to Morocco and marry me.
Okay.
So that's how we end up from fiancé visa to the marriage.
Okay. And that's kind of a quick time, though, is it? How much
I think from April till June. That's when I proposed to her.
Okay.
April, May, June. So two or 3 months.
Okay. And when did you actually get married?
September, I think September 19 of that year.
Of 2020.
Yes.
Okay. Now you filed for her there, right?
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Let me back up. So once we had this conversation that she declined to pursue the fiancé visa, she told me you have to come to Morocco, we have to do the marriage, then we can apply for the green card instead. So I went to Morocco on September, maybe 6th or 10th. Then she laid out everything. She said the first day you have to come visit my family. We're gonna have dinner. She invited us. It was a nice dinner, by the way. Then she said the following weekend, we're gonna have the ceremony for the engagement. And that's what happened. That's what we did. So everything was done a little quick.
And then you'd petitioned for, when did she come into the U.S.?
She came on February 14 or 16 of 2022.
2022. And did she come in with you and live with you?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you live together?
2 months.
I'm going to stop here with the questions because I just want you to tell me, what was it like in that 2 months? What happened in that 2 month period? And then what caused it only to be 2 months? Who left? Why did
so before the marriage, there was a lot of representations talking about our life once she comes into the US.
Yep.
And once she came, a lot of those representations, they're not what she promised. In other words, her behavior changed. It's a different person coming here.
Yep.
For instance, when we filed the marriage, when we married on September 18, 2020, we filed, I'm sorry, we may have to cut this portion. When I filed for, when I married her in 2020, the next 2 days or the following day, her dad asked me, what do you need for you to start the application? I said, I'm gonna need the marriage certificate, obviously.
Yeah.
And then they provided that because I think I had my return tickets within a week after September, maybe 26th, I came back to the US. I was rushed to file for the I-130, which stands for the green card application.
That's your well, the I-130 is your petition for alien relative, right? That's you petitioning for your alien wife, really. I mean,
Right.
That's the I-130, right?
Yes.
So you filed for that when you were here. Was she wasn't here with you, was she?
No, I filed as soon as I came from that trip. It was on October the 1st. I still remember the date.
Okay.
So September, maybe like as soon as I came, maybe 3 days as soon as I came. So there was a lot of rush from her family and herself, which did not bother me.
When you say rush, you mean a lot of rush to get you to take care of
to file the paperwork, which at that time did not bother me because she's going to be my wife. She's eager to see me.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly what you need to do, right? So.
Right. So I still remember the day when I left, me and her, we exchanged hugs, kisses in the mouth, and things started to change, or I started to notice the day when she came here to the US at the Washington, D.C. airport. The first thing, she was not interested in giving me a hug, even though she keeps saying, I missed you, I want to see you, and all that stuff, all the beautiful stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
She could not kiss me because she was wearing a mask.
When did she come again? When was it?
It was on February 2022.
Okay.
COVID was kind of loosened up at that time.
Yeah, it was kind of over by that time. Right.
But people still wear masks. So she was, one of the things the airline would require to go through COVID test before you could fly.
Yeah.
So I knew she did not have COVID.
Yeah.
And that's the first sign, wow, my wife didn't want to kiss me. There was no hug. Cold incontinence, but I thought maybe she's tired, but maybe that wasn't the first. She was too cold. I'm sorry, we may have to cut this portion. I'm sorry. So anyways, she came from DC. We stayed there for a couple of days, showed her around, then came to Lexington, Kentucky. That's where I reside. And I believe the third day, she started asking me Social Security, when shall I get my Social Security? And I made a call to the Social Security office.
Yeah.
I mean, it started to get a little bit weird. It's more about like immigration papers and it's all her status. She started telling me I need to find a job. We didn't agree for her to come to work. When she comes, we agreed she's gonna go to school.
Well, you're not a poor man. You own a business and you're fairly successful, right? So.
Right. So this has nothing to do with money, but
no. I just mean that she's rushing out to get a job and she's rushing out to kind of get. But it's not like you're not able to provide for your wife.
No. Yeah. But money was not an issue. I mean, I'm a little small business and I do pretty well for myself. I'm not really super rich, but I don't have big bills. I'm sorry.
No, I know. No, I understand. No, you're. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. No, you're a successful man. We all define success in a different way, but you're fairly successful. You're a hard worker. You've done everything that you've done. She came in and she wants to go to work. So I don't know that that's a negative thing in itself, right? To want to have a job.
It's not negative, but let me tell you something. As a man who was waiting for his wife after 17 months,
yes,
that she proclaimed she misses me, she could not wait, this immigration is taking forever.
Yes.
Then what she's doing, she's trying to distance herself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I understand I'm not going to be with her 24/7. And she brought this she complained to the court. She said, he's always in his computer, like he does not want to leave me alone. He's watching me.
Can't make it
a lot of false.
No, I saw that. Yeah, we'll talk about that because you sent me some of your paperwork, and that's important too. But I think the most important thing is kind of get that pattern down. So you guys were only together for 2 months, and she came in. She switched from when she was in her home country to this loving person. She gets here. It's a very common pattern. This is not something she gets here, and there's like a switch that went off, and it became a different person emotionally and
yes, I believe she had kind of an agenda already laid out.
Yeah.
Like what she would do when she comes.
Yeah.
And her plan was not, I have nothing to do with it. So at that time, I prepaid for few tickets. One of them was to go to Las Vegas. I didn't tell her. It was like going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
And I also had another one to Miami, which I took her to Miami too. I spent a few $1,000s there with her. So there was a big plan for my wife when she came in. I was very excited.
Yeah.
But guess what happens? She told the courts that I took her to a hotel that has bed bugs in Miami. In Miami, just like how bad of a husband I was. She told the court that I would not let her out of the house by herself, like she could not see friends or do stuff.
Yeah.
And she also admitted that I'm the one who find her the job. So she was contradicting herself.
But you were only together for 2 months, right? And then so you're together 2 months, and in that process of 2 months,
this is the first 10 days. I'm telling you, this what's happened the first 10 days.
First 10 days.
10 days, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was 2 months of that. Yeah, no, that's important.
The total amount I lived with her was 2 months, yes.
Okay.
But
so the first 10 days, all that happened. I've heard this story over and over again, so I'm kind of shocked. I'm shocked, but not shocked, I should say. So that's the first 10 days. You won't let her get a job. You're controlling her. You're trying to watch out what she does. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how was the relationship for that 2 months that you guys were? I guess were you together? Was it constantly that kind of stuff, or?
I introduced her to a few friends around here. One of them, I'm not sure if I'm good to say names. I don't want to involve others.
No, don't. Yeah.
She had a few friends, Louisville, Kentucky, and here in Lexington, like another person who has a family, so she could not get bored or so she could get used to the culture, to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not what she really claimed. I was watching her 24/7.
No. Can't do that and run a business.
Yes.
Yes. So what ended up happening at the end of the 2 months? What ended up happening?
So things were running a little bit on and off. Kind of we went dormant, if I can say this expression. Like nothing. It's an average family, maybe not too much. There is no fighting or nothing, but there is kind of little disappointment in my end.
Yes.
Like my expectations were not what she was representing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem started exactly when her green card showed it was delivered.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it was on the 15th of April, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
What happened the next day, she called me. She was at work at that time, and she said, "Hey, my green card came in. Can you go and check it?" I went to the mail and I couldn't see nothing. And the next, when she comes in, she rose a fit. "You took my green card. Why didn't you check it?" It arrived, according to the tracking number, it shows it arrived the day before. But she raised this issue the next day. And that's what really put everything took place. That's when I
Yeah, you
started to realize.
start getting this alarm bell going off.
I started to back up. Why would she accuse me? How important this seemed to be to her. I asked her, hey, we can go to the USPS, we can check, we can go to Louisville, where the immigration office gets a replacement, whatever, or check on the status on it. And she wasn't interested in solutions that told me, hey, maybe she's up into something. She just want to create an accusation. And when I started to see the way she was behaving, I thought maybe I should leave the house. I would not stay with her because she's gonna come up with something, accuse me of something that's gonna cause a big issue. And that's what I did. I left the house at that time, and a few days later, she started sending me messages. Please come back. I love you. All of that stuff. I believed her again for the second time that she really didn't mean that.
Yeah, because I mean, I think what people understand is that as men, and it is, we don't get this as men, so we want that love too, right? We want someone to love us, and when a woman shows that they want us, that's what we want. I mean, all of us.
I think once you think you are in love, you're more vulnerable.
Exactly. Precisely. And when you think you're in love, you get these blinders that you just don't see some of the stuff because and people will look at us and go like, well, he should have known that, he should have known that. But no, when we have emotions too, and I've been in love, and I go, I don't see, I don't see that she's an axe murderer because I'm in love with her.
Right.
I mean, that's a joke, but you have some of that, and people have to understand that you don't see. I think that's a very poignant point, and I think it's vital. It's very important that we, as men, we're able to say that too, right? So
yes. And I was planning to come back to the house, but what opened up my eyes and made me make a decision of find annulment was I received a letter that shows there was a kind of investigation or police. Someone called the police. Usually, I think in my time, I'm not sure about other states. Anytime you call the police, if they're not going to prosecute, they will send you a letter saying, hey, here is your options. I didn't see what that letter, it just kind of notification on the USPS mail. And when I saw that, that's it. I figured out she's making up accusations, false accusations
against you.
So since then, that's it. I made up my decision. I start to recall every little incident, any representations. The whole thing was kind of a setup. And I didn't believe myself that, hey, I'm a victim of marriage fraud. I really didn't believe that until things start to fall.
Well, you and I talked about this, that, I mean, I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, and I've been through some of this where people have tried to defraud me, and it took me a long time to catch on because I'm smart, man. They're not going to get me at this, but it takes a couple of hammer blows before you go, hey, wait a minute. And when we're in love, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, how smart you are, you fall into it because that's the human nature of us, right? And you want to believe that, and also when you want to believe people are good and just.
And that's what I see on people. I see the half full cup,
you see the cup half full, and that's what we want to do. We want to do that, but sometimes people take advantage of that, right? And we have to be aware of those people that take advantage of that stuff. You see that you see it more than people realize. And everybody thinks they won't be. No one could ever get over on me. And I did this for 20 years, and I say, yes, they can. People can get over on you. It's just what your needs are at the time. So none of us are immune to it. That's the most important thing.
Yes. So at that point, I sit down meditating, and I said, let's back up a little bit and let's rewind the clock. How things started to fall, the choice between the K1 fiance visa, green card, the rush about filing this I-130, the behavior the way she was. And most importantly, which I forgot to mention, the first time when she came to Washington, D.C., she was not wearing her wedding ring.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, boy, that means something, doesn't it?
It means, look, I lived half my life in US and half my life in Morocco. I know both cultures. I know what it means to both cultures. Her excuse was, she just comes up with different excuses like, oh, it's too small, could not fit her fingers.
Yeah.
And I would give her solution, could be resized. Oh, I didn't bring it. And then, can you send it back to, can you ship it back to US? Oh, yeah, I will do it. And she would be irate when I mention the ring situation. So what I learned, the ring does not mean nothing to her, and she knew what it represents to me.
Yes.
And for her, when I started to look at every little aspect, the other thing was, one of the representations was, before we got married, how big the wedding's gonna be. People from different parts would be coming, joining. And once we signed the marriage certificate and she came in here, the wedding ceremony was not her plan to do at all. She said, just forget it. We don't need it. We're already married. I'm already here. So it's one piece after another. They're little small pieces, like of a puzzle. But trust me, when you put them together, you get the whole picture.
Yeah, and I think there could be a thing where that ceremony has a lot of meaning. It's not the fact that you've done a legal marriage. It's that ceremony has very symbolic meaning. And
you know, I'm a Muslim by birth.
Yes.
It means you're telling the whole world, hey, this is my wife.
Yeah.
Remember what we talked earlier? In maybe Eastern society or culture, they don't want a man and a woman to go to private places because of the culture.
That's
but
right.
The wedding is the opposite. He's telling the world, hey, they're married husband and wife.
That's right. Yeah.
So it means a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
The other piece of evidence was, which my attorney, I will give a big thanks to, Mr. Thomas, catching up on this, was the Facebook.
Yes.
My ex would not add me as a friend to Facebook.
Yeah.
Her excuse was, until we do the wedding. Once we come to US, because people are gonna know that we're married, they're gonna expect a wedding ceremony, so let's just wait. So the whole time, she was pre-planning for all of this.
Yes.
So making this public was not her intention since the get-go. And
yeah, Facebook can give you a lot of information. I found a lot of information on Facebook that, and that's a big symbol to me. That, you know, I can imagine my wife not having me as her friend on Facebook.
She told me. I'm sorry.
No. It doesn't make any sense to me because, like, it's not that we talk on Facebook or, you know, she just has posts of our kids on Facebook and I have posts of the kids on Facebook, and we don't interact on Facebook. We just know each other's there, right? When you've been married a long time, but she doesn't even want you to know that she's there. That's kind of
what I find out, she did not want to tell none of her friends or family that she was married.
Yeah.
Once I learned about this also, once the visa was granted, she celebrated a 3-day party.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what that celebration was for? Not for she's coming to her husband, or she's celebrating because she got the visa to the US. Great.
Hey, that's I hate to say it, but that's a big accomplishment to get a visa to the US, especially most people who get visas to the US are non-immigrant visas. She got an immigrant visa, and that's huge for people. Yeah. I don't mind her celebrating that, but I think it would be like a combination celebration, right? Of her getting to come here and getting to come here for her husband.
Yes.
With what you would expect, right? That should be a double whammy.
And as of right now, or not right now, at that time, I only knew 5 members of her family. I don't know nobody. So yeah. I think this is a very big red flag in her end.
I think that's
someone who meant really to genuinely marry you and live with you, they're gonna be happy to introduce you to their friends and family.
Yes, absolutely.
So no wedding, no friends in Facebook, no friends, no follow-up in Instagram.
Yeah. But then again, we have to always, because people are gonna like, and I want to be honest and blunt with you, is people are gonna be judgmental towards you and go, well, why didn't you do this? But no, we're emotional creatures and we're in love, and we don't, even men, we have these enormous blinders. We have someone we love, they can do a lot more to us than what anyone else. Yeah, I was in the military, and I've been in a few scuffles, let's say, in my time, and there's a difference of, you could see some threat out there that's dangerous to you, but when you have this emotion tied to it and you have this love for someone, man, you've got some huge blinders on that you don't see that. You don't see the same, it's not the same spidey sense. And I want people to understand it, because I want people to be able to understand it, you as a human being, that, yeah, you're in love with this woman. It isn't, you're not doing this for any other reason that you want this love and this family. I really want people to grasp that, how important that is.
Yes.
So
the second part, I think, which is really important to our conversation here, is what happened next after I discovered this marriage fraud. What happened next? That's like phase 2, or the first chapter of hell on earth starting.
It's the first chapter of hell.
Yeah, so after I discovered that she's about to make false allegation, that's it. I was very sure that this is not entered in good faith, and she's making those false allegations. I looked at the call logs, and she was in my account. It was a shared account, and I saw she was making very long conversations with a person, with an individual, maybe for hours, multiple hours, I would say. And that got me curious, and I did a little research to see who's that person. Actually, it was 2 people. One of them was a person that I thought was a friend of mine who worked for a law firm, who introduced her to this third-party person. So both of us, I got backstabbed from this person I called friend.
Yeah. Now, how did you know this person from the law firm?
He was he was a friend of mine for a very long time.
Okay.
Kind of acquaintance, not a close friend.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
he works as a paralegal.
Okay.
And there was a call made to him on April, I don't know, sometime that week, on April 16 that week. And then the following call was this third-party person, who I found out was a VAWA advocate or a VAWA expert. So that's where what next chapter has to tell, or intel, started.
Yeah.
After doing little research, I found out this person has, what do we call them? Certificates of achievements. Yes. They have awards of their advocacy. They have like extensive knowledge, videos preaching immigrants, what happens to you when your spouse pushes you, what happens to you when someone throws a water bottle at you, and what happens to you when your spouse stole your green card. So I start to find out. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Let me just make sure. Is she just telling them, what do you do if they do this, or was she coaching them?
This person came to court to testify.
Yeah.
She testified that she never saw me in person. She never saw my ex. She only testified of what she heard from my ex part.
Okay.
But what she said was on her videos, she was coaching them. She had openly, which I have live videos of her right now.
Yeah.
She had a lot of conversations one-on-one with police officers, with immigration lawyers. She has extensive knowledge doing this for years. And she just sometimes she will. She did admit in one of her videos, I believe, I watched only some of them, that she assisted an immigrant.
Mhm.
She said, all you have to do, if your spouse, just tell the prosecutor that they stole your papers. I believe she meant by papers like immigration
Yes.
papers or passports.
Yeah.
If you make sure you make a claim and bring it to the immigration here, and you will get your immigration back. And that's when I started comparing her accusations or her allegations.
Instructions.
What
Her
kind of
instructions.
like what's happened to you if you push stuff like that?
Yeah.
Then I start to realize they have similarities to what my ex did in her APO.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
No, yes, knowing she's only been 2 months.
Yeah.
I've been in this country for many years, and I didn't know how to write an EPO.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. So this person came to testify how horrible of a person I was.
Yeah.
Without even seeing me or talking to me.
Yeah.
Just, I believe she kind of, I would call her a gun for hire.
Yeah. 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 No, that's exactly what they are. And I've seen this over and over. I think it's important to, I interject more with you than I do anyone else because your story is almost perfect. And what I saw was, you go to these psychologists and these counselors, more than psychologists, counselors. I used to see people on VAWA go to a counselor once, and have this perfect story laid out. That, by the way, you can get from anyone because it's very simplistic language. It's, he pushed me, he yelled at me, he did this. You don't have to go elaborate on this. And they tell this story to the counselor one time. They never see them again. The counselor will write up something that, the person who came to see me exhibits all the signs of PTSD or whatever, of trauma, of family trauma, and they've only seen them once. What you're saying to me is, I think it's important for people to understand that you've been with her for 2 months, but I've seen people be in a house with someone for an hour.
And they came up with those.
And they came with the same stuff, 1 hour. And so we think two months is exaggerated, which I agree with you. But the way the system is flawed, time has no reference to them. So it's
But her accusation started the next day after receiving the green card. So she kind of got what she came for. Now
she had a green card. Yeah.
Now it's time to dump me and come up with some excuse. And
well, the thing is that what you may not understand, that you came in here at a period, and you came in here, I think, did you come in through like an employment based, wasn't
it? No, I came in as a student.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you came in as a student, but then you got your permanent residence and everything. Well, you have to understand that let's say you and her got divorced and you determined that it wasn't just a good marriage, then she has to wait 5 years to get her permanent residency. But all this mess means that she can do it in 2 or 3, or rather 3.
Right. And according to Mr. Sampson, the VAWA expert or the fraud expert,
yes,
she's not going to be interviewed by USCIS.
Not at all.
She's protected. Nobody's going to question.
No. That's what I worked same thing as John did, and no, she's a VAWA person. Well, there are 2 things that are really sad about VAWA. One is you get no say in this. You don't get to, anything you say is automatically excluded in the VAWA process.
Prohibited source.
So you're a prohibitive source. Exactly. Not only are you a prohibitive source, any member of your family is a prohibitive source. But your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, they don't care. It's important for people to know that you don't have a voice in this. You get arrested, you get charged, you get claims filed against you, which, by the way, can be detrimental to your business or your employment.
Reputation.
Your reputation is shot. I saw this over and over again, and you get no say whatsoever, and they get to do it to you. Yeah.
And I believe this is a loophole this system has.
It's a huge loophole, and it's extremely tragic that they. Yeah, I'm sorry. I like that you're making really good arguments. I like to kind of share it. So I think it's.
Look, this was not a funny experience. I don't want to wish it to nobody.
God, no. No, and it's important that you share that no, it's not a funny experience. It's a tragic experience, and people go through. So you ended up together for the months you were together. Then she left. Did she leave you?
No, she didn't leave. When I filed, so there's a lot of things happened during that week. I filed for annulments.
Yeah.
She filed for she got served with the annulment. She filed for an EPO.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
She was scared of me. Like during that week, she was begging me, please come back.
Yeah.
I told her, look, this marriage was a fraud. Your dad was calling me before you came in here, and as soon as you landed in your foot in this land, he doesn't care. I call him. I told her your whole family was on it, not just you.
Very common.
She was receptacle at that time when I told her. She knew what she was into.
Yeah.
She knew it. She knew that I figured out her fraud, and at that time she wants to cover it. She sent me voicemails begging me to come, and I knew it was fake. I told her, look, you promised me the wedding. Where is the wedding?
Yeah.
We're not friends in Facebook, so I told her everything. Hey, I found out what you're up to, but she was trying to deflect.
Yeah.
And she was coming up. Her EPO, when she filed it, which was very suspicious, I wanted to thank the judge for seeing through all of this.
Now, I want to make sure, because you keep saying the term EPO, and one of the things I learned is the average person doesn't necessarily know what an EPO is. Can you tell us what an EPO is?
It stands for Emergency Protective Order.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. Thank you. So
you're welcome. She filed it the day after she got served with the annulment.
The day after.
Within 1 day.
Yeah.
And guess what? Again, this third party, she was making calls with this third party.
Yeah.
Who is the VAWA advocate, Amal. Her name is Amal. She lives in Florida. She contacted her. Then if you look at the call logs with the time this EPO was filed, within minutes, she called the police. Anytime she made an allegation with the police department, they have a police reports with the time. There was a call right before it with this VAWA. So this person has played a big role with making those false accusations. And that's what I wanted the world, or I wanted people who are going through this to do little due diligence, to look at the call logs, to see what their spouse who are calling. I'm not trying to ask them to spy on them, but just keep it.
How do you protect yourself, right? How do you protect yourself? You got to protect yourself just like everyone else does.
Right. At least because the way she was talking, leaving me those voicemails, it was not herself. Because I knew her for a few months. I knew my ex for a few months, and I knew how she thinks. So the way she was laying down kind of little awkward stuff, allegations.
Can you give me an example? What was she saying? I mean,
like, you started abusing me, you did this, like she started making those accusations.
Accusations over the phone.
It's more like projecting. She was trying to leave a record in the voicemail.
Yeah.
And she thinks she was trying to use them as evidence of me.
I got you.
Hey, I have a proof that she was abusing me by her saying projecting. I know it happened.
So anyway, so you ran through all these threats with her. Let's pick up from here and say, you ran through all these threats with her, and she was accusing you of all this stuff, and you ended up in the process that you didn't ask for a divorce from her, right? You didn't want to get divorced from her.
No, this is not a divorce. This is misrepresentations.
Yeah,
she used me.
You wanted an annulment because she used you just to get into this country. It's fraud, right? And just tell me briefly, what happened in that? you went to court with your attorney and with her before a judge. What did the judge decide?
She had her time to explain her side of the story.
Yeah.
The judge did not bore it. Thanks God for the judge for being smart.
Yeah.
I really truly appreciate what she did because she saw through her lies.
Yeah. So you know, this one guy that you go and see and you present all this evidence of what went on, because I've read the transcript too. You sent me a copy of your annulment, and the judge is going, no, this is ridiculous. So she didn't have a good time frame for you, right? She's accusing you of stuff that she doesn't get in the right order, and it doesn't even fit the process.
Right. I think the judge has little at the early stage. She thought, or everybody, whoever read the EPO, thought I'm a monster.
Yeah.
And anybody who could see someone who's abusing their spouse is truly a monster.
That's right.
Which is not a good person. But once the judge starts to realize those are fictitious or just a bunch of lies, then she was truly upset about my ex coming to court and lying, making those false allegations. And
almost destroying your life. Almost destroying your life. And, yeah.
It took maybe 2 or 3 years of my life. It took a lot of money to hire attorneys, to hire experts, money for a bunch of stuff.
I think it's important. No, just because you have money doesn't mean it didn't affect you emotionally, financially. And think about this. I guess I always try to tell my children this, and I always think about how blessed you are. You're blessed to have been able to fight this and win. Granted, she put you through the ringer. I'm sorry, I don't mean that. I don't mean to make light of that, but people go into this and they can. I get the other side of the story where people go, I'd like to get an annulment, but I don't have $20,000 to get an annulment. You know, I just want to get away from this.
For me, it wasn't about money. I know it's going to cost me a lot of money, but it's about doing the right thing.
It's a principle. Yeah. And your character and your honor matter, right? So I can see that. Yeah.
And I don't want other people to go through it too. And I want to give an example of, hey, if you thought about marriage fraud, you're going to get deported. You're going to go back to where you came. So please don't think about it.
Yeah.
There was a case. I'm sorry. There was a case in Kentucky where a woman defrauded her spouse and she got deported, or she left the country, or the judge did not recognize her marriage.
Yeah, and we want that, right? No, that's and that's not to be mean. That's just that we need
the right thing.
Well, but my concern is more that you, as an American citizen, right, have less rights than a foreigner who comes in here and drags you through the ringer. And getting her deported is a nightmare. It's only begun. I think you told me about this, and I think that I've heard this often because I hear this from people from overseas often that, there are advertisements overseas for people to come here and how to come here. There are advertisements in the Department of State for foreigners when they're coming into this country to tell them, warning, hey, this is what you do if you're being abused by your spouse. Warning, this is the stuff that they should be protected of. But there isn't one warning for a person like you as a U.S. citizen to say, hey, people can take advantage of you X, Y, and Z. They don't warn you about this as a U.S. citizen. There
are laws to protect the immigrants, but no laws to protect the U.S. citizen, unfortunately.
No, there are laws to protect you, right? The issue is that there are no laws that are enforced to protect you.
I think you're right. There are laws, but they're not enforced and they're not advertised. They're not on.
No, that's right. You don't.
There's no.
That's my point. Is there's no advertisement of. Well, I take that back. There's no advertisement of protections for you and warnings for you. Now, the difference that I will say is, I have to be careful about saying there are protections for U.S. citizens. When it comes to you as a VAWA victim, the violence against women, even though she had a green card, you're still fall under that VAWA of someone accusing you of all this behavior. Because There are things she's going to want to get out of that in the future. There are no protections for you in that. If the moment you're accused of being a abuser or this bad guy, everybody sees you as this evil. You said it. Everybody sees you as the bad guy.
As a monster, yeah. I think the government or maybe the USCIS labels you as an abuser, and anytime you want to sponsor another immigrant, they tell them, hey, he's an abuser, be careful.
That's right. Well, there's also just that's another issue. I think there's some truth.
The issue was not if a person, I mean, there are bad guys out there. I believe that. But how about those who did not really did anything wrong and they've just been accused, did not have the opportunity to fight what they're accused of? And I believe this is the issue we have with this VAWA thing.
Rachid, I worked for I point out I worked for the agency for 20 years. My perception in being an investigator in the process is out in the field, talking to people. Actually, I was the guy who went out and knocked on doors and talked to people. I can tell you, if in probably my last 10 years of doing fraud, I can count on one hand, the number of real victims of abuse, that deserved VAWA. But I can tell you all the cases that I went out on where men, a lot of men, there's some women that they're falsely accused, but the number of men that were falsely accused of being abusive was overwhelming and not even close to true. In my book, I tell the story of the guy who was in Los Angeles and the girl who was in Atlanta, and she's accusing him of abusing her over and over again. And the guy in Los Angeles wasn't a good guy, but he wasn't an abusive or a bad guy in the context of being violent. He was a drug addict, and so he had a lot of drug issues. But every time that she accused him of being abusive and mean to her, he was in prison in California. He wasn't even in Atlanta. So no, I think you're right. I think there's no protection against you guys, and that's probably one of my biggest things. And not only men, women who are falsely accused of being abusive too. It isn't one side. But no, I've seen more people like you who I don't think has ever abused anyone in their life. And you're abused, and no one, you're automatically the monster. And I apologize for that. That they
no, that's exactly how the world looks at you once the EPO is filed against you. That's right. A monster, a woman accuser.
And an EPO is simple. You file an EPO, it's automatic. It doesn't matter that you don't have to have
one-sided.
It's one-sided, and it's just protective. It's part of the VAWA process. And no, I think.
And most of the courts grant them.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, they all not most. All of them would grant them 99% of the time. It's very rare that they don't, because it's a protective order, right? It's just in case. Yes. But for USCIS, the courts in the local area say, well, it's just a protection order, just to make sure that person is safe. But the USCIS takes that to a whole nother level. They view it in a completely different scheme, and that's why it's so scammy. But no, that's it. So I really appreciate you talking to me. And I think some of the things that I take away from this is you got to be careful with that person. When those red flags pop up, try to let down your love blinder.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah. It's hard, though, because the other side is the more intelligent you are, understand that you're capable of being suckered for emotional reasons. I don't mean that bad. I think I'm a very intelligent person. Again, I go back. I've been in similar boats, man. We all are. It depends on the thing that. Well, that's a whole different philosophical notion. But so this impacted you emotionally.
Very.
Very, very much. I know. And then financially, it really impacted you. But the outcome was what happened? You went through an annulment process, right? And what did the judge decide in your annulment process?
The judge believed that this marriage was not entered in good faith.
Yeah.
That it
by
was
whom? Was not entered in good faith by whom?
By my ex.
Yeah, by your ex, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
She designed the whole thing. I mean, each case is different, but in my case, those are little small pieces of puzzle. When you start looking at refusal to connect in social media, refusal to honor the wedding ceremony, refusal, just the behavior, the kissing, trying to distance herself from me as soon as she came in here, trying to look for a job. Yeah. It's all like one after one, and the false allegations of the domestic violence. Yeah. Even her witness, her third-party VAWA advocate, lied under oath in courts, and that even didn't help her case. I mean, the whole thing was a mess.
Yeah. Well, we know that because the judge. I saw the annulment thing, and the judge kind of said, "Hey, look, this is foolish." And fortunately for you, you were to take it through that process. But that's a long process. That should you have had to go through that? I mean, should you have had to not? Should we not have had a system in place that said, "Wait a minute, you've been with him for 2 months, and then X, Y, and Z, and you flew into this country and you started this game within the first 2 weeks, right? You know."
Within the first day.
Within the first day. Yeah.
I think there's always going to be bad apples out there. But sometimes my advice would be just do not underestimate any little piece of evidence, anything that you could be suspicious on. Just put it on the side and just watch another behavior. And if you think before you could get married, take your time if you're suspicious. And then even somehow, if you believe this marriage is not entered in good faith, I would advise you to fight it. Get you a good attorney, get you an expert. If you give up, and that's exactly what those fraudulent are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're waiting on you to give up. They're waiting on the government to give up. They're waiting on you to give up. And you're exhausted, right? You get exhausted from this fight. Emotionally.
Yes.
Emotionally and physically, it's just very exhausting. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the misrepresentations, I think a lot of it starts from the early stage. Yeah. The choice of the visa, the manner, the lack of the little stuff, sometimes the little things like just the wedding ring. If someone does not give a value to it, that tells you this person, they're not into you. They're just using you.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And no, that's a very important symbol. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
If I was to ask legislators, I would tell them to look into the VAWA one more time, because it's only one side. It protects the immigrants and it does not protect the US citizen. Yeah. At least there could be a law for the open record. At least if someone's been accused, I'm not sure there's an exception. The US Constitution, you have, I'm not sure which amendment, right to face your accuser.
That's right. Yeah.
So I believe this should be done with VAWA as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the law of this country.
Yeah. You should be able to face your accuser, and you should be able to defend yourself, because it is your reputation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as human beings, one of the most important things we can, if you're in business, if you're in life, is your reputation. You know, I worked for the federal government for 30 years, and they do background checks on people every 5 years, and your reputation matters in that background, right? Too. I mean, your job depends on, do you have good character and are you responsible? And someone can throw that away in a minute.
Just even false allegations.
With false allegations, and you could be the best guy in the world, right?
I've seen people, I looked at some of the people who got defrauded, people with the military who served the country, who take a bullet, they've been accused and they got stripped.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Military guys. Yeah. Just for just an accusation.
Yeah. I think the power that they gave to the VAWA is beyond Believably.
It's unreasonable. I think
Yeah.
and we have to get these stories out. I appreciate it very much, Rachid. I think it's very compelling, and I think you're a good human being. And I'm sorry this happened to you.
It's not your fault. It's I think
yeah,
it
but I
just
worked for the
happened.
government for that probably during the time you were there, and I fought against this, and I promise I was an advocate for you then, and I just don't think they give you enough credit as part of.
You cannot hear you. At least someone need to sit down and talk to you.
Exactly.
Hey,
Well, I'm
let's
hoping
listen
that's
to
what this
what you
does.
have. Yeah. I think a lot of voices from different people, and hopefully someone can do something.
We'll do the best we can. So I appreciate it. Well, thank you. And again, this is a recording, and we're going to. I'm going to cut the recording off now, and you are good with the recording, right?
Sure.
I think we.